Oh, Ariam, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, he's got a nice personality. I've never met him before, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably played him on ladder before, no? Maybe?
Yeah, no, I've beaten him a bunch of times. I don't know why he thinks he's gonna win if it gets region locked, but you know, if he wants to believe, that's fine.
Give the young ones some hope, right? Yeah. Always cool to hear from these guys, especially since he actually lives within walking distance of the studio.
Yeah, he said he like finished school or whatever, and then he's like, well, what should I do today? Maybe I'll just walk over to the WCS studio and watch some professional StarCraft.
I think that's pretty awesome.
That sounds like the dream.
You just finish, get out of class, like, all right, let's just go watch the best players in the world play some StarCraft, man. Like it's that easy. It looks like things are finally getting settled down here for our match to kick off our second match of the day. Of course, in the first series, we saw a pretty back-and-forth, grueling battle between Bomber and Jim, but now it's time for these guys to face off.
That was a bloody mess of a series, and I was watching the whole thing with HuK and Czech, actually, and HuK kept pointing out, he's like, see all these mistakes they're making? I can beat them. They're tired. They are weak now. HuK was ready.
You think so? How much of the travel, as someone that travels and competes, do you think does it really affect them that much that it's a different beast to play versus Jim and Bomber when they're jet lagged?
I'm not gonna say like let's just make up a bunch of arbitrary percentages and go.
All right, let's do it.
So let's say on an average day you play between 80 and 120% of your normal skill.
All right. And how much does the travel affect that?
And I would say the jet lag kind of drops that percentage, maybe like 10 to 20%. So you're still, instead of being like, let's say you're normally top 16 GM, maybe you're playing more like top 30 or top 40 type of situation. And it's not enough that they're going to lose to somebody who's super far out of their league, somebody that they would never ever lose to. But it's enough to make those slight differences. It's the details where you'll see it manifest most. The decisions to start fights that they aren't quite in your favor, or the decision to begin a battle right when you need to macro. Losing track of some of the most important things in the game and giving yourself up to the whims of the situation, I think, is one of the hardest parts. Once you get jet lagged, you just can't hold as much information in your head at a time.
Yeah, that's a little insight into the mind of a traveling pro gamer. I've not had to deal with anything quite that harsh yet, but we're loaded in, guys. We've got everything going here to start the second match of the day. In the bottom left position, we have a red Protoss player representing the North America, playing for Evil Geniuses. He is HuK.
I love those thunder sticks.
Oh, man.
Really make a lot of noise.
People getting loud already.
Yeah. And in the top right-hand corner, he's your Korean Zerg in this group. Give it up for Wei Spider Check! You got more HuK fans.
Well, he's definitely someone that is from around here. Yeah, we would say
he's been around the block more than a few times. I think a lot of these, probably everybody here has seen HuK play a lot.
Yeah, he's been one of the longest standing staples in the North American scene, I think is safe to say.
Yeah,
throughout all of StarCraft too.
Probably, HuK obviously has quite a few more results than I do, but I think we are about the same age in terms of how long we've been in the StarCraft scene.
Yeah, guys have outlasted quite a few of the other players that have retired in the last few years. But
sheer determination. So hatchery first from Czech against just a normal 13 gateway from HuK. So Czech taking a little bit of a risk here. This can be a little bit dangerous if HuK were to go for a cannon rush, and he may try and fake a cannon rush here. And actually, Czech's already pulled 2 drones out. I think Czech is expecting the cannon rush, and HuK is going to fake the cannon rush.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. He's managed to pull down now 2. Okay, now he's going up to 5 drones. This is starting to become, you can't see it in actual tangible numbers how much resources he loses. Okay,
Right.
a couple more drones come down, but he's not mining, which just hurts his income overall. HuK's been pulling in a little bit more resources, which of course, it's nice. He does delay his own Nexus as he's opened up with a gateway with no gas.
Yep.
There's no aggressive follow-up until you take that Nexus in this situation for HuK.
I think that was a really smart move from HuK, especially when you see the drones out there like that. You know your opponent is expecting the cannon rush, and so you play into their expectations. Czech is going to be more likely to react more strongly because he's clearly already expecting the cannon rush to happen. And HuK is a player who's cannon rush, he cannon rushes a lot. I'm not sure if it's every series he plays against Zerg, but it feels like quite a lot he uses that strategy. Czech, obviously, having prepared quite a bit, was ready for it. And now the situation is kind of stabilizing, and Czech is actually not taking a third hatchery yet.
Yeah, HuK seems a little indecisive. He started Warp Gate, canceled it, started a Stalker, canceled it, and started Warp Gate up again. He's going to get both either way. Of course, that Stalker will be good for deflecting anything like Overlords, although Czech has already gotten a full read into his base. But these 2 Zerglings want to come up, see if there's anything else hiding, chilling in the natural, maybe get a probe.
Are exposed here. They're going to have to go back into the main. And maybe HuK was kind of indecisive whether he wanted that earlier Mothership Core or the earlier Stalker. The Mothership Core will probably start pretty soon here, and the Stalker should be able to deflect those lanes, no problem.
Yeah, they actually go straight into a second Stalker. He's not looking to get that Mothership Core just yet. He'll start after the Stalker. So this, if it's not a speed opener, which we know it isn't a speed opener, then these Stalkers have a lot of opportunity to put on pressure and just use the shield regeneration to deal a lot of damage.
HuK knows that Czech didn't take early gas. He doesn't know that he didn't take gas, let's say, right after, and he doesn't know about the third hatchery. But the potential here... Oh, the Stalker.
You don't want to get that surrounded. These Zerglings shouldn't be able to... They shouldn't be able to just get us surrounded. They move at the same speed, so as long as he doesn't get caught, should be able to escape. And once the Mothership Core comes out with the second Stalker, I think this guy gets off scot-free.
Yep.
4... Okay, he's actually added on another gateway in the back of his main base. This is going to be some heavy 2-base pressure.
Yeah, and that's probably why he was favoring that Cybernetics Core, chrono boosting it a little bit here. Aggressive Pylon is already down, and he puts one right in Czech's face. Now he's got to know that this is coming. A second Pylon actually going down.
Well, when your Roach-Horn starts the same time that Warp Gate finishes, things can get a little bit crazy, QXC. A Spine Crawler is kicked off, Zergling speed has started, but Czech has to hold out for a very long time before any of his useful tech to fight against this is ready.
Yeah, he's almost certainly going to lose the third here. Queen goes down. Lings are coming out, but Lings without speed are going to be kited for days.
These Queens. These Queens move out. Once these are killed, of course, this Mothership Core can just sit here and rain down with impunity upon these Zerglings. The Roach-Horn's almost done. His Spine Crawler's almost done, but almost doesn't cut it in this scenario, QXC.
Yeah, he's just going to have to rally units to his natural now. He might try and get a surround here, but once he sees those Zealots warp in, he realizes he needs to just back up. It's time to stabilize on 2 bases. It's not the best position, but it's the only position that Czech has at this point.
Yeah, he's moving a bunch of Zerglings to the left side. I am getting the impression he wants to try to cut off the reinforcements by killing those pylons from behind, which isn't a bad idea, because if you can kill the pylon, and then Zergling speed finishes, these Roaches come out, maybe there's a chance to try to sandwich this army if the Mothership Core is not in position.
The recall is up.
Yeah.
He'll never be able to kill that army as long as HuK is paying attention.
That's a really good point.
He's going to focus fire down the Mothership Core.
Yep, and the Mothership Core does pull back. There is the recall, as you said. I was going to say Zergling speed wasn't quite ready, but even without it, being surrounded by Slowlings is still going to get the job done.
Yep.
Kills an Overlord inside the natural. So what's the follow-up for HuK? He's finished up his Forge, and that's about it.
We'll probably see him put down a Robo.
Yeah.
I would expect in a moment here. Lings streaming across the map there, but they're not going to be able to do anything against that ball.
Actually catches a lot. These are actually a lot of Zerglings he manages to catch in those force fields.
Yeah, and
pretty nice.
A little bit of a...
HuK's lost 1 unit this game and killed 36 of his opponents.
Yeah, the units lost tab right now is very telling.
That's one sentry he lost, I guess, right? Or maybe one of his Stalkers. There are 150 resources.
It couldn't have been a Stalker, because the Stalkers are...
oh, no, it must have been a Zealot, because he canceled the Pylon earlier, too.
But the Pylon would only be 25.
So he lost something. Okay, he lost something.
You know what it is? It's 2 canceled Pylons and a Zealot.
Okay.
Because he put down 2 pylons at Czech's third, and he canceled one of them.
All right,
and then
I'll
he had the canceled pylon in Czech's natural.
All right, I'll take it, QXC. He's adding on 3 more gateways.
Or it could be 2 probes.
Okay, he's moving up to 7 gates, a +1 in a robo. So
Or it could be 4 canceled pylons.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to. We'll have to get we'll get the detective on the case after the game.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a tweet that knows exactly what's going on.
There's some guy that's
How many
better.
gateways is he adding? I'm seeing
he's going up 7.
7 gateways and a robo.
And he's getting more.
He's already pushing. He's like already gearing up for the immortal transition behind the 7 gate.
Yeah.
He's like chrono boosting out that immortal there.
Well, he's trying to break in. He does get a few lings into the natural. He's going to kill the sentry, but he does get 1 force field to kill the lings off with. And the cannon's
one
unpowered.
One of the cannons is unpowered. The second cannon goes down.
And HuK's just going to attack this third base anyway.
Immortals are really strong.
Yeah, the immortal is what makes this, I think, defendable. But still, that's a little almost too close for comfort for HuK. And now his army, well, this can't really be stopped. Not right now.
Well, and HuK also has another recall. So regardless of how well Czech is able to surround or get an engagement here, HuK will be able to recall and then do an immortal follow-up.
Great force fields are just going to lock these roaches in. They cannot retreat. And even with those spine crawlers in the back, these stalkers aren't really being hit. Roaches do come from behind, but the force fields are still holding those away long enough. No zealots in front means he should be able to kill some of the sentries. So HuK actually, no recall. He's going to lose all these gateway forces.
Yeah, no, HuK used his time warp there, which I think was a pretty significant blunder here. Actually, Czech is able to clean that up, and
I think if he uses a recall instead of time warp, then it's a bit of a different animal since he's already knocked him down to 2 bases.
I think HuK he really underestimated the amount of roaches that Czech had, not just coming out of his base, but also, is that Mothership Core going to die?
Yeah, he left it there targeting down drones, and he might pay ultimate price
2 more hits! 1 more hit! Oh no, it's going to get away.
Okay,
unless Mutalisks come out of these eggs at the third.
Well, he has a Hydralisk.
Actually, no, the Queen's going for it. No. No.
He does. I mean, he does have a Hydralisk in it. It could have been a Hydra that pops out.
One Hydra pops out.
That one Hydra
throws 1 needle at the Mothership Core, plummets Hindenburg all over again.
It'd be a cool cinematic for StarCraft. So he's cleaning up the pylons on his side of the map. He's taking the third base on the right side. He's like, screw this. Obviously, the left base isn't working. Yeah. But with the Immortal is nice against the Roaches. Hydralisks can deal well with them. But I think with this many force fields, it might not be that big of a factor.
Well, and he's also got the third base will be able to be photon overcharge. So no matter where Czech decides to fight, he's going to be fighting into a photon overcharge. And the economies right now definitely favor HuK. You know, you never, as a Zerg player, you never want to be in a position where the Protoss' third base is done before yours, and you don't really have much to show for it. It's not like Czech went for 2-base Muta or like Nidus, something crazy, and did economic damage. This is kind of like a relatively stable position where Czech is just going to be behind economically.
Yep, he's bringing a big attack forward. He has the range upgrade on his Hydralisks. He steps back. I mean, you know, HuK's had an observer on this army the whole time. But HuK doesn't really care about pushing out, I think, at this moment, since Czech's third is so late that as a Protoss player, being on even bases normally is fine. The only thing that HuK probably doesn't want to deal with are these swarm hosts that are going to be coming out in the next couple minutes.
Well, and you can actually see HuK's patience reflected in how he's spending his money. 4 photon cannons going down at the third. He knows that as long as he doesn't take significant damage in the next couple of minutes, he will be able to come out of this with a dominating lead. Like, look at how strong HuK's army is. If he can catch Czech's army out on the map somewhere, especially before Time Warp goes down.
Yeah, he's like walking right into this. He's like, I don't have Blink. Makes things difficult, but, oh, God, that's a bit of a massacre, QXC. This army, swarm hosts are good, but with the number of force fields available, I think you should be able to clean up the army without dealing with the locusts. Well, or at least, there's not really enough locusts to be a threat anyway, right?
Yeah, the locusts are just going to kind of die. Like, how many swarm hosts does he actually have? I'm seeing about 3. Now the big engagement is happening.
And he's force fielded out the locusts. They can't even join this fight. There's nowhere for the Zerg army to run. And HuK looks like he's going to take the first game against this Korean player. A couple Zerglings and Roaches on the production tab, it's just not enough. There's so little gas economy for Czech since he had this third base so incredibly late, was never even able to take the extractors. He can't afford units he needs. And HuK takes the first game.
HuK takes it. Can we do that thing where we yell GG when the game ends? I was watching some Korean VODs, and they always do it.
You gotta do it when the match ends, man.
Really?
It's like the final.
Wait, not
know,
for the game?
Like the most.
But isn't the game also exciting?
The most climactic point of the series, right?
But you don't think when the game ends, that's not exciting enough to yell GG? You know, in
HuK had a pretty big lead at the end of that game.
You know, in soccer, whenever there's a goal, they yell goal. They don't wait until the game ends.
When it's a landslide, if a team was up 9-0 because of the 10th point.
Well, but that's not what happened in that game.
HuK was pretty ahead after he killed the third.
He was pretty ahead. Oh, we're gonna watch the 4-gate again.
Yeah,
that was really nice.
The end of this third base.
This is really my favorite part of the game. Just look at the queen dies, things die, and then he warps in all his units, and then the base dies.
Yeah, and the most important part, I think, is getting away with the units in this scenario.
Yeah.
Of course, the follow-up push where things got a little bit awkward for HuK, but he executed this attack about as perfectly as you really need to. Without the third base, without being able to spread your drones out or take those gases, you can't afford the tech that you need to actually fight that immortal-based army that HuK was able to kill him with later on.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how much that seemed to blindside check, because of the opening HuK did, Gateway Nexus, there wasn't really, the Overlords were flying all over HuK's base.
Yeah.
And Czech should have kind of been able to get a read, he sees the gateway count, he should be able to see, warp gate starts, and then the Overlord's kind of flying out after that point, but just didn't expect that big gateway pressure, and here we go into game number 2.
Yep, we're going to be playing on Catalina. 3-player map. In the left side, we have a Protoss player from Canada who is up 1-0 in this best of 3 in the WCS America round of 16 from Evil Geniuses. He is HuK.
And in the top middle, hailing from Korea, your Zerg. He's down 0-1. He needs your support, known as Czech.
Well, QXC, we're just on another map that I think 2-base plays pretty damn good on for Protoss.
You think he's going to 2-base? He's building a gateway. I was hoping he cannon.
I haven't. I've seen. Have you seen the cannon rush that you can do in certain spawns on this map?
Only in certain spawns?
I don't know if it works on that top right spawn, but I know if HuK's base, if HuK was Czech,
yeah,
then there's this spot at the natural where I saw someone pull it out in GSL recently too. It's a super dirty location that you can get.
You can put 2 pylons and wall off a cannon.
You can wall off the cannon with 1 pylon, I think, or something like that.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly.
All right, I'm going to take your word for it. Ooh, Lucky Scout for HuK. Doesn't make a huge difference in this situation. Czech's going for just a standard early pool, and we will see him put down the hatchery shortly after. HuK, meanwhile, going for gas now, but a bit of a late gas, actually.
Yeah.
So maybe HuK's standard response to a hatchery first is to go Gateway Nexus, and when he scouted the lack of a hatchery, he decides to put down his gas and transition off of that. But
don't want to take too many risks in a scenario like this. There's I think I've been hearing an increasingly higher trend of Zerg players opening up with a couple of Lings to try to scare off, because a lot of Protoss players love Nexus first. Nexus into Gateway has become one of the biggest staple builds, whereas a year or 2 ago it wasn't really a smart option because of how difficult it was on the maps.
Well, and you also didn't have the mothership core, which makes a huge difference. It just gives you. It gives so much more power to an early gateway opening, because early gateway means earlier cybernetics core. Early cybernetics core means an earlier mothership core, and the mothership core just does so much against a Zerg on hatchery tech.
Yeah, it makes really trying any sort of early attack for the Zerg player borderline suicide. The Nexus does start up for HuK, so it's not quite that crazy fast Nexus, but since Czech didn't get his base very fast. His biggest concern is just going to be making sure he can get his 3rd base up, which was the focus point for HuK in the last map.
I'm trying to decide what to make of HuK's Chrono Boost right now. He just had 100, and he used his first Chrono Boost on the Mothership Core since it was at 100. But he's not Chrono Boosting out Warp Gate, and he's not Chrono Boosting anything out of his Gateway. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if this is a mistake or there's some building that's going to come up soon, or if he just decided he would save it, maybe to throw off a scout.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So check, he had an Overlord watching that second gas in the bottom side of HuK's base. It moved away when the gas started, and now he's moving it back. He sees, okay, you finished it. Now he moves in, and maybe this is what you're talking about, QXC. You see a Nexus with full energy. I tell you what, I don't play Zerg terribly much, but if I see a Nexus with full energy, I'm like, what is he saving what is he saving this for?
Right, yeah, it's really unusual, because it doesn't feel like a gateway attack, because you would expect there not to be that much energy, because you'd be chrono boosting out Warp Gate. It's almost like, I don't know. I don't think it, let's not read too much into it at this point. Third hatchery from Czech, and he did go for that early speed. And I think Czech was kind of anticipating, maybe not expecting that same kind of pressure from HuK, but he's decided in this game he's not going to lose to that. You know, maybe he'll take that third hatchery a little bit later and be a bit more behind in the macro game, but that's okay. From Czech's side of things, he has almost complete information of HuK's base, except he never saw the Forge. And so right now he knows 3 gateways, but he doesn't really know where the gas is being allocated. He doesn't know if there's a hidden Twilight Council. He doesn't know if there's a robo facility somewhere on the map. He doesn't know if there's some Stargate, and that's going to make things a little bit tricky. But if these Lings go up the ramp there, they'll see the Forge.
Yeah, and that +1 attack coming in again. Always keeps things interesting. But he does take both assimilators in his natural expansion, which kind of lends itself towards more tech-based play. Right. HuK could very well just go for a Twilight Council and make this push off 2 bases with +2 and Blink.
Oh, Czech saw the so Czech saw the Forge now, and I think he saw a healthy number of sentries, so he probably has a pretty good read on what HuK is doing at this point. He knows there's not, you know, super fast gateway aggression or anything like that. Most of HuK's army is back home. But now he's got to make a decision. He doesn't really know if HuK is planning to take a 4th with those units, or if he's actually planning on making additional units and being aggressive.
That Stalker almost gets caught, barely able to slip out, and then be saved by his friends.
Yep.
It is a third base being set up by HuK, though. And QXC, this map, it can be a little bit tricky to hold on to this base, I feel.
Yeah, he needs to start establishing the walls, and Czech is going to scout it immediately. So this puts Czech in a very strong position information-wise. He knows exactly where HuK is putting basically all of his money. He knows the Forge, he sees the army of HuK, and he sees the third Nexus. Meanwhile, HuK he's very aggressively placed his Mothership Core. He already sees those roaches coming off around the map. The hallucinated Phoenix is now flying over Czech's bases. He's seeing the tech, he's seeing what's coming out of those larvae, and he knows that there's an attack coming. He's seen a bunch of roaches move across the map, and he saw a flux of Lings also come across the map. So he just needs to be careful here and make sure that he can actually hold these bases.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the tech that he needs to fight against this just yet. +2 just started. Blink just started. The Robo's about to finish, but he doesn't have anything that can hold this off just yet. Now, I guess what's almost nice for him in this scenario, since he doesn't have a lot, like we've been mentioning, Czech did go straight into drones after that push-out.
Right.
So he doesn't really have anything streaming across the map. He's just got a couple of Lings and Roaches he'd like to play around with. But they can still, of course, get some damage done if HuK isn't paying attention.
Yeah, it seemed like as soon as HuK's eyes left Czech's base, he switched into constant drone production. The Spire does go down from Czech.
So this could be just one of those light play with the Roaches and Lings. He actually is going to kill a few of these Roaches here. But these don't seem to have a lot of value for Czech. It feels like he's got his eyes set on that big transition potentially. Yep. He is making a few more Roaches, but this could also be more precautionary than anything else. He's going to make some more Zerglings too.
Yeah, I think he's trying to kind of conserve his gas, at least to some extent, you know, making a lot more Zerglings than he's making Roaches. And he also wants to continue the illusion that he's planning to commit very heavily to this ground style. The less HuK expects the Muta transition, the better it will be for Czech.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He wants to sell the story to HuK that this is going to be a very heavy, aggressive Roach-Ling game. And without a lot of Zealots, these Roaches and Zerglings can do a lot of damage against this forest once the Stalkers get preoccupied with those Zerglings. The force field's not really perfect, and he does kill off a good chunk of the Roaches. Now the Immortal's out. Big Daddy says back off, but he did kill a couple of those Stalkers, and now come the Mutalisks, QXC.
So 9 Mutas in production here. Czech's got enough gas to start at least
And he's chronoing Immortals, so he's kind of sold the story that he was trying to at this point.
Yeah, and the big thing that's going on for HuK here is that he already has Blink, but he doesn't really have anything else going for him to defend the mutas. He's got no Stargates, he's got no Templar Archives, there's no Archons, there's no Storm. He's basically going to be defending the mutas with just Blink Stalkers, and now HuK is moving in.
Yeah, I do like this. If HuK can clean up these Roachlings, the Roachling force, then he can get a little bit more active with his army outside of the Mutalisks, outside of the Stalkers, excuse me.
Yep.
But the Muta count has not reached that deathly count just yet, and HuK starts a couple cannons. The Mutalisk already going on top of all these probes, and at the same time, the Zerglings and Roaches are going to hit the third.
Yep. HuK is doing a really good job of splitting his army up. He's using the Mutas to pull some of HuK's army away while simultaneously attacking that third, utilizing what he has with multiple fronts to make them all as efficient as possible.
Yeah, he both overcharges the main base. That third is still kind of holding for now. The sentries have mostly been cleaned up, so it's just these Immortals holding off against Roaches. And the Mutalisk's actually going to come in here and help defend against these as well. Might have to burn another Photon overcharge, and he does. The Stalker count, not really that crazy. He has 14, but with 4 more Mutas coming out on the map, I will say he killed a lot of the Mutas, but the size of this map makes just walking across it very difficult with how many Roaches and Lings are still alive.
Yeah, and HuK's really not in a position where he can leave his base if HuK continues to make mutas. You know, 14 Stalkers is about enough to defend 3 bases. He can sit them kind of between the main natural and the third, easily blink down and defend whichever base he can get to, but without a sizable number of cannons, those Stalkers can't actually leave his base and do anything aggressive, and without the Stalkers being aggressive, he can't do anything on the map right now. That gives HuK free reign to drone and finish droning that 4th base if he chooses to, and to continue making Mutalisks.
Yeah, this Warp Prism gets caught too. That Mutalisk count is rising higher and higher. QXC is up to 22.
Yep.
And he'll be at 25 in just a few seconds' time. Plus 1 attack is coming in as well. These Mutas are going to become very difficult to deal with. I'm not really sure with how much air distance there is to bounce around for these Mutas. What does HuK do at this point?
Well, he's basically stuck defending for quite a while here. He's only at 140 supply, and that means there's a lot of room for growth in terms of HuK's army size. The problem is that he can basically freely expand at this point. He can take a 5th base. He can make more drones because he knows HuK can't actually move out with his army. The biggest threat he has to deal with is Zealot run-bys.
Yeah, that's really all he's got. These Zerglings and Mutas try to attack by that 3rd base, but held off. He's going to move in towards the natural, snipes the sentry. Now the Zerglings and Roaches have not been able to get in just yet, but these Mutas are just going to kill all the Photon cannons while the Stalkers are held away, and those force fields actually kind of worked against HuK almost there.
Yeah, they were sectioning off some of HuK's army, making it impossible for him to regroup. And HuK did lose some Mutalisks, but when he kills 4 or 5 Photon cannons, that's opening up further opportunities. You can see he's darting back in with the Mutalisks now and forcing HuK on the defensive.
He's barely killing anything for the resources that he's losing,
right.
HuK that is, so you're forced to build cannons. That's resources that aren't going into your supply, that aren't making your standing army any stronger. And like I said, the layout of this map, those Mutas are just going to bounce back and forth all day.
Big pickup from HuK here. How many Mutalisks just died? I think HuK must have lost at least 6, maybe even 10 Mutalisks there, and that's going to give HuK a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, it's not too bad. He still managed... the crazy thing is, you pointed this out, he's so free to expand and just keep mining and building drones that he's going to remain consistently maxed out. He's at 27 Mutas, 9 more about to finish. He's starting up a Hydralisk Den. And, I mean, Hydralisks, I'd say, are not bad versus gateway-based armies. Oh, those Stalkers managed to get just in time to defend these Immortals. He really needs to keep these power units alive, especially if there's a switch back into lair tech.
Yeah, any kind of big ground army, the Immortals will be very useful against that, but HuK is going very heavy on the Stalkers here. And the Muta's actually engaging the Stalkers head-on.
Yeah, he's not afraid to trade against this force. He's recognizing, he's like, okay, I really like my economy. These Zerglings come into support, too, which is also quite nice. More Stalkers are going to bleed forward. I think HuK traded away a pretty ridiculous amount of resources, but there's mass 70-plus Zerglings being made right now. If he overwhelms and catches these Stalkers out on the map, that could be it.
Yeah, and HuK is now threatening the backstab. HuK sees the Mutas. He's kind of keeping track of them. At the same time, he's pushing forward with his Zealot Sentry Immortal army, trying to catch the Zerglings out of position. I
mean, these Zealots, they have +3, man. These are definitely not any forces to mess with. I feel like the Zealots are more important than we give credit for at this instance, though, because if these Zerglings get on the Stalkers with that Muta support, it's going to be very difficult for HuK to actually fight everything at once. And now, with the Zealots dead, these Stalkers are forced to retreat. You can't just fight all this together.
Yeah, and HuK is staying max, like you said, 54 Zerglings on the way, 10 more Mutalisks. HuK is forcing HuK to abandon this base, but he's not going to be able to keep pushing for that much longer. 66 Zerglings are about to finish. HuK is only at 120 supply, and HuK still has such a strong economy. Even though he lost that 5th base, he's still got 4 basically full mining bases at this point, plus a 70 supply advantage.
For everything that he's lost, he's about to be at 33 Mutalisks yet again. And with these Zerglings, with this many Zerglings, that even with that +1 melee, with no armor upgrades, the Stalkers just die stupidly fast. And I love this. The Muta's running the natural. He's like, yep, come run down here. Come on down. Blink. And now the Zerglings get on top of HuK's army. The Mutas come in at the same time with no Zealots to reinforce. HuK's army is just going to be overwhelmed at this point. I really don't see HuK being stopped here.
Yeah, HuK really needs some Zealots to deal with those Zerglings. With the upgrades, the Zealots would be very efficient here, but there's so many Mutalisks that HuK just has to keep making Stalkers or be overwhelmed by that air army.
Yep, there's just not the necessary forces in place to hold it all off. And as much work as these cannons, as much work as these Stalkers are doing, that supply count, man, just tons more links, tons more Mutalisks on the way.
Yep.
And HuK, yeah, it's, you know, you push him away for a couple seconds, but that's going to be it. I really don't see HuK stopping the next push that HuK brings.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the economy that he needs to remax or the tech that he needs to make those very cost-efficient trades here. You know, Stalker, Sentry, Zealot, you can deflect the Mutas for a time, you can deflect the Lings for a time, but you need something like Storm if you really want to compensate for being down 100 supply. I mean, a lot of that isn't army, because HuK has 90 drones and HuK has 50, but it's still a big enough disparity that HuK can't really take this head-on fight.
No, the Mutas bait the forces down once again. It's like, yeah, HuK's like, sure thing, bro. You want to force field yourself out of your base while you go kill everything? Have fun. The Nexus is going to be targeted down, and there's not really anything that HuK can do about it. He splits Zerglings off into the main base, and as many Zealots as you want to warp in, you have fun, because these Mutas are still going to be able to kill everything else.
Yeah, and the Mutas do finish off all of the Photon Cannons. They're now sniping the Stalkers here. Without the Ling support, the Stalkers are doing okay, but the Lings in HuK's main are just decimating it.
Yeah, this is looking dark for HuK. GG is called. And HuK is going to tie the series up 1 apiece. Not too shabby from HuK. I think that on that map, man, he made that strategy look ridiculously good.
That was awesome. I really liked that strategy. It looked very fun to execute. I'm sure it was less fun for HuK to play against.
Yeah.
He just needed... It felt like that the weak point, kind of the linchpin that HuK was leveraging against HuK was that space in between HuK's natural and the 3rd. By using that location, he kept threatening to go into HuK's main, and when he force-fielded either against the 3rd or against the natural, he would go the other direction, and if he actually came back to defend his natural, HuK was able to get that big surface area that he needed to make his Ling so effective.
Yeah, I have to say, the map layout definitely helps. It's such a smart play to use that low ground area by the natural. The Mutas run into the actual natural, and then you try to leave your 3rd base, and the Zerglings just surround you as soon as you blink down.
Yep.
Really smart play from HuK. But King Sejong Station, I think a similar style can work.
Yeah,
but it's a much more comfortable map, I feel, for Protosses, especially just given its age in the map pool.
Yeah, and that area between the natural and the 3rd is not quite as exposed on Sejong as it is on Catalina. Do you think we'll see a cannon rush? I'm kind of feeling the cannon rush.
I see. The thing is, I'm always feeling the cannon rush, and it doesn't happen. So I don't like to say QXC.
All right.
We'll have to see. Maybe he's feeling a little frisky this game. He's our red Protoss in the top left position. He's tied 1-1. He wants to win this map and go to face Bomber in the winners match. From Evil Geniuses, he is HuK.
And in the bottom right-hand corner, showcasing a very interesting and unique Mutaling style, give it up for Spider HuK!
He built his first pylon in his main base, by the way. I don't think we're going to see the cannons, QXC.
Man, why you got to say things like that?
I mean,
it could still be a forge. Oh, look at
he's not a liquid hero.
Do you think, okay, so this drone scout, is this going to be an offensive hatchery, or is this just to be super safe?
I think it's possible that he puts an offensive hatchery, but this is also one of the maps that lots of Zerg players drone scout on. Because the cannon rush, as you mentioned, is so good on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of... It's just really easy to wall off those cannons around the mineral line. It's like a very specific mineral line on this map that allows for that type of play. And HuK's actually going for Nexus first.
Now, if he knows this, if you just put that hatchery down immediately, then I think it's a huge win. HuK's forced to pull down a ton of probes. He loses a lot of mining time. But Czech's going to look at this and say, okay, I guess at least I can go double hatch before pool.
Right. And I think this is a nice way to end the series for HuK. He's been playing, at least, so he started the series with a very aggressive opener. And in the second series, he played like kind of a mid-range macro, you know, that relatively safe early, but then going into a pretty fast third. This game he's going straight into a macro style from the very beginning, taking this risk with the Nexus first. And I think that's a great way to round out his play, keep his opponent guessing. The easiest way to lose in StarCraft is for your opponent to know what you're doing before you do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. You do not want to be too predictable. I was about to say, is you going double hatch and then gas pool? It's HuK's gas. He wants to be doubly annoying. The thing is, with this Nexus first, you can very easily just take one of the gases in your natural.
Yeah, he could easily start the assimilator down there. He's got to get a probe down there, but that's not a big deal. Oh, you know what I just realized is HuK is just now scouting, so he's actually not opting for that very greedy forge list style that some players do. It's not as common, but he's going to get that forge in his natural, but he is going for that very early cybernetic score, kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that forge is because he's only got one gas, it's not like this is going to be for a fast upgrade.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Oh, is he going to cannon rush?
I'd be really impressed if he made this work. No.
Oh, yes. What do you mean no?
Oh, no.
Don't say no. Say yes.
I don't believe it.
This is so smart.
This is what happens when you're greedy. You know, the map maker was like, the natural, okay, you can't block off the natural with 2 pylons. And then it's like, well, have you checked your third lately, good sir?
Is that pylon going to finish? This cannon, if this cannon finishes, it's going to be so annoying for Czech. But I think
he's got 6 slings on the way. I think with half of its build time, you only need...
Yeah, no. He'll be able to deflect this without much trouble.
You only need 3 drones to prevent it from finishing. He's only got 2 on it at the moment, but the pylon even could get killed. Yeah, there's the cancel.
But he did force a number of lings to be made. He forced a bunch of drones off the line. And that exact type of play is what set him up to make his 4 gates so effective in the first game. Yeah, you can see the workers right now. HuK has 30 probes. Czech has 23. You know, that's a huge advantage for HuK. Normally, as a Zerg player, you want to be...
Actually, did he? He didn't lose an Overlord, did he? He's supply blocked. He hasn't been building any drones.
Yeah, this cannon rush, which didn't do very much direct damage, did a lot of kind of incidental damage. It affected Czech's focus. It affected his ability to macro, and it forced some kind of invisible damage in the lost mining time.
Yeah, I think that Overlord not being built made things really awkward. Almost killing a probe.
Yeah, almost got it. But HuK knows how to play American football.
Yeah, he's got some good blocking going on. That's for sure.
And the cannon's going to finish, and then he'll probably... Well, he's got to... Wait, isn't there a space on the right?
Nah. Walls are deceiving in StarCraft,
that's not... Okay, I don't know how to wall off with Protoss, apparently.
I know exactly what you mean, because those things would always make it into my base. I'd be like, start another pylon. It's like, actually, there's 3 other spots open in your base, Nate.
Yeah, I guess...
He's adding on 2 more gates, and his +1 is almost done.
And Czech did see the chrono boosting on that +1. Look at how many lings Czech is making. He's got 18 already on the map, and he's still down.
Look at that drone count.
Yeah, he's so low on drones because he's making these early units. I think you can see the way he's spreading his lings out. He was really expecting an aggressive pylon somewhere and some aggressive play. The thing is,
this third Nexus, there's no way he finishes this.
There's no way Czech is going to let that finish, but Czech has to see it, and he has to think that this is a possibility. He may. Yeah, no, he's going for it.
HuK already canceled it. When that Zealot died, he's like, that's not going to work.
And it's actually really good for HuK that he canceled it before the Lings spotted it, because now Czech doesn't know, is HuK actually playing 2 base, or is he trying to take a 3rd? You know, if you see the third and you see it get canceled, that gives you way more information than scouting the third location and not seeing the Nexus in the first place.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. There's a couple more gateways on the way. Twilight Council on the way. So 6 gateways, not too crazy. Moving up to +2 Blink, I think, is really standard in this matchup. It still seems like HuK wants this third.
Yeah, he's definitely seems to be playing for it. But going up to 7 gateways, it's a lot of gateways to take a third off of, kind of, especially when he wanted to take it so early. But I think he doesn't have a good read on Czech's follow-up here. You know, this could be the first 15 Zerglings of a huge attack, and because that Zealot across the map didn't really ever get anywhere, he's kind of in the dark. And you can see the Mothership Core is now being more aggressively placed to give him additional information about, you know, if there's an attack coming, he needs to know, can I actually hold my third, or do I need to abandon it, retreat into my natural, things like that. The hallucinated Phoenix is now moving out to get additional information so he can make some better decisions.
Yeah, I love the hallucination play coming out. Just always important to know what your opponent is up to. He knows it's a 3-base setup, of course, but, you know, seeing these double evolution chambers would be really nice, because I think that this actually lends itself to a similar style to that of the one we just saw in Catalina.
Yep.
Where you just those heavily those, I won't say heavily, but you know, those upgraded Zerglings are usually discounted. Like, you don't quite recognize the benefit of those lings until you actually see them on Stalkers and you realize just how much faster they kill everything.
Right. And HuK with that scout basically established no 4th base, and the problem is he didn't see any units being built. And he didn't see the main, which is where all of the tech is right now. He's going to see that with this hallucinated Phoenix, Spire, double evolution chamber, and Roach Warren, and he'll know very soon. Oh, Lings are coming around to HuK's third.
Yeah, he's also taking those rocks at the back of his natural expansion. He's looking for openings. HuK is going to actually wall that off, put some cannons there. But these lanes, they will get into the third. At the very least, you should be able to clean house on these probes. This is mildly frustrating, I think, for HuK.
Yeah, and for some reason, he didn't choose to wall off that cannon.
He's going for an attack, too.
Yeah.
Oh, your third base is in some trouble, bro. The 1-1 is done for these Zerglings, so they really don't care about these +1 Zealots. Not at all.
And he's moving into the natural now. Czech is making a lot of roaches, but he doesn't have speed. The Spire is a long way away, and it's very hard for Lings to actually engage that many sentries.
Yeah, this is... Well, I mean, I guess he's got a great position on the third base. This Spine Crawler shouldn't be able to finish up. I mean, maybe at best, he uses his force fields to just snipe drones and potentially... I guess I don't think he should be able to get this hatchery.
No, I don't think he's got enough force fields. He
snipe drones and recall.
Yeah, he wants to avoid engaging the roaches for as long as possible and then keep as many sentries alive as possible. He may even want to recall just a little bit early, like now. Yeah. Now would be a good time, yeah. Because it takes a slight moment, you know, before the recall actually goes into effect. But now Czech has lost almost all the drones at his third, but so did HuK.
Yeah, so both these players killed the same number of workers this game. It's been a bit of a slugfest, to say the least.
And, of course, the Zerg player will be able to replenish that worker count a little bit faster than the Protoss, but...
At Spire, he's getting +1. He has not started any Mutalisks yet.
I don't think HuK is really expecting this. Oh no, double Stargate. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, he saw the
totally,
Spire.
Yeah.
When it
well, I
started,
know he saw it, but I didn't know if he saw it.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But with the double Stargate, he's going to be more than prepared. A lot of roaches here. He may actually make some Void Rays, depending on how threatened he feels by this. And actually, Czech's making 1 Corruptor. That's his Spire transition.
That 1 Corruptor. There's no Colossi on the map. But that 1 Corruptor is going to be...
And he's starting Groove Spines, but he's also getting +1 missiles.
He's getting all of the upgrades, QXC.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what Czech is...
His Infestation Pit is done, too.
Yeah, so is he going to start Hive as well? I'm not...
Is he going to go into Swarm House like he wanted to on Overgrowth?
There's so many questions right now.
He actually has like every option.
Can we just go ask Czech what he's doing? It's like, so I see you've gotten every tech structure
in the game
right now.
Which one do you actually plan to use? As these roaches push the natural, but HuK's defensive setup is phenomenal there. Like, that's really not something that you can break with light harass.
Yeah, and with the observer, he can see the swing around if they choose to go back to his third.
So there's going to be Roach Hydra at least for a bit.
It's going to be Roach Hydra Viper.
Yeah,
maybe that's what the fast hive is for.
Yeah,
that seems likely. I don't know.
But this Fleet Beacon and double Stargate certainly won't do anything against this.
Yeah, he's going to have a little bit of trouble here. The Immortals are not going to be... I mean, they'll be good against the Roaches, but you need something to kind of fight those Hydralisks.
Yeah.
They have such incredible damage output. He makes 1 Phoenix.
I mean, this is a scenario where you would typically want to have double Robo Colossus production. You want to, I mean, Colossi are the natural best way to deal with Hydralisk-based armies.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it was Swarm Host, it would still be a good way to stop it. But HuK has just been, I think, that last game really puts you off kilter when it comes to that potential Mutalisk attack. Look how many Stalkers he has.
Yeah, and so, well, here we go.
Oh, if he gets caught off here, things get ugly. Doesn't have creep spread. He doesn't have Hydralisk range upgrade. And as long as HuK can partition these forces off with force fields, well, he can get some nice pickups.
Wow, and Czech's army actually got completely caught. He's kind of fighting, he fought like a 10% of it, then a fourth of it, then half of it. Like there's a whole bunch of his army at HuK's third that's just attacking gateways.
It's like, oh, break the wall down.
Lead the charge.
It's like, well, you're not really doing anything. But your effort is appreciated. 5 Vipers on the way for Czech.
Yep, and 20 Roaches.
You know, the Vipers really shouldn't do too much unless because there's no Colossi. The key component to defeating this army, the natural counter to them, will have very little use.
It's really interesting how well Czech is able to send signals about what he's doing. You know, in the second game, he sent these signals that he was roach maxing, and the Mutas caught him totally off guard. This game, he sends signals that he's going Ling Muta. And the Roach Hydra is not, I mean, HuK is dealing with it well so far, but like you said, he's not really making the units you would expect him to if he was really planning to go into a long, extended game against Roach Hydra.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I like the spines being added for defensive purposes. I think he's preparing to go, if he can get enough gas, to go for some sort of eventual base trade with all the static defense. But HuK just needs to kill this and get the hell out, because this army from Czech is still really scared. A couple of Blinding Clouds could be game-ending if this army gets forced to fight. The Sentries.
Oh, no, the Mothership Core.
Sentries, Mothership Core, Immortals get abducted into this army, and HuK, he's got Mass Stalker versus Roach Hydra Viper. And the Blinding Clouds, they are quite real, QXC.
Yeah, you can see he blinks back, but the units where they blink to, they're already Blinding Cloud. They just run straight forward.
These force fields aren't bad. Fits off a lot of these Hydralisks away from the main army. HuK is making this work. He's got that +3 attack, doing some serious damage. But Czech, his macro has been off the charts, still maintaining a very heavy economy. He can pretty much max out again as soon as he wants to. He has not a crazy amount of larva, but still, his army, with his static defense, like, this shouldn't be breakable, right?
Yeah, and the problem for HuK right now is he's basically out of force field, and he has no Mothership Core. This is extremely risky, very dangerous for him. If he gets caught, he's got no fallback.
Yeah. He's continuing to put pressure on this third base, not afraid to fight into the static defense. His nearest pylon is quite far away, though, which is what makes me really nervous. Blinks back once again. Here come the reinforcements. This army for HuK is just absolutely massive, by the way. He's down on army supply, but some of the supply just doesn't quite do the trick for Czech, like these Vipers. There's another Blinding Cloud, then HuK, all he really wants to do is just avoid an actual fight as long as those are being laid down.
Yep. Always going to snipe that hatchery, and he'll be able to continue to blink away here, but he needs to make sure he doesn't actually get caught in a bad engagement on the map. There is no out for him at this point.
Oh, he's going to try to catch these units. The sentries are in position. 1-2 force fields, not quite what he was looking for. Could have been a really big pickup if he was able to seal a couple of those units off.
Yep.
He's just actually going to go for it. Just continue to pinch off a couple units here and there. As long as these Hydras can fight in the back, these Blinding Clouds make it really hard for HuK to get a cost-effective engagement. And he's got that pylon.
Yeah, Czech is just cleaning him up now. The Hydra's doing so much damage. This army, well, yeah, no, Czech is coming out kind of ahead.
The thing is, HuK's mined out his main base. He doesn't have as much economy behind this as Czech does.
Wait, but Czech has no main base.
Yeah,
somehow HuK.
Somehow Czech has more money.
Yeah, so Czech lost the fight, but has more supply than HuK and more money, or something. So I'm not exactly sure.
Czech has lost more resources as well.
Yeah.
This game is a bit confused. As Terrans, we are slightly confused.
Takes a big fight, loses his whole army, comes out ahead in supply. I'm not.
What can we do? Like, watch replays like to check just. Did he have some sort of perk at the start of the game?
I think he had a lot of units. Basically, what I think happened is both players were constantly reproducing units as the fight was happening. But HuK's reproduction happened at the fight because he had a pylon there. And so even though HuK was losing the fight, he wasn't making the fight as efficient as he would like. He was still increasing his supply in the fight at such a rate that he was actually able to clean up the rest of Czech's army. The problem for HuK is because all those reinforcements from Czech were coming out at home, Czech is now maxed.
Yeah.
And he's got basically whatever he needs to fight, pure Stalker. That same fight is not going to be able to happen again for HuK because he doesn't have the supply that he needs, and he doesn't have the reinforcement potential that he had.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope
this is looking tough. Okay,
nice
feedbacks on the Vipers are nice, but you don't have a Storm versus this army, and even just 1 or 2 Blinding Clouds, you get Roach Hydra right on top of this Gateway army, and it's just going to be a little bit too much to fight against, I think. HuK's 4th base being denied, his natural is very low on resources. I don't think there's a lot that he can do at this point.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the tech he needs to take that fight as efficiently.
He's like running into the corner. Well...
warp in some sentries here, but Czech has an overwhelming advantage.
GG! Just too much from Czech, as he did a really good job of controlling the pace of that series, QXC.
Yep.
That second game really sent a chill down HuK's spine when it came to his build order for Map 3.
Yeah, it felt like the biggest difference between these two players had more to do with how they controlled the tempo of the game, rather than their actual mechanics or even kind of like their general unit composition or anything. It was more just Czech was successful in sending signals about what he was planning on doing to HuK that were wrong. They were not what he was planning on doing. And HuK just kept reading the signals, in the way that Czech wanted them to, and the Muta switch caught him totally off guard, and then the Roach Hydra also caught him in not the position he wanted to be. He was at 2 Stargates and a Fleet Beacon. The only unit he made out of a Stargate was 1 Phoenix.
Yeah, that's it was a really interesting situation to be put in because you're so afraid of that Mutalisk switch coming in again that you're just like, I need to be prepared for it, or I'm going to lose. Let's hear some of the thoughts in that series from Josh and Roddy.
Thank you, gentlemen. HuK was up, then Czech came back. Rotterdam, a little bit of a surprise here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, surprise. I guess it's kind of a 50-50 matchup because they're both pretty evenly matched, I think, and we know that they can beat each other on any given day. But I think it's kind of funny how both best of threes have played out so far today, because all games have been kind of scrappy, a little wonky, a lot of things that don't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, we've been on a little bit of a break, and it almost seems like the players are feeling it too.
They're trying to get back in that groove of things. That's understandable. But looking at the multiple fronts that Czech was able to bring against HuK in game number 2, that's where I felt that his stride started to take place. Yeah. As a Protoss player, how do you deal with that, and where did it start to go wrong with HuK?
Ooh, difficult question.
It is.
No, I actually was really surprised that HuK was able to hang in there like a champ, like he did, because it's so easy when you scout the Mutas that late to just take an incredibly amount of damage on your mineral line, and then it's almost impossible. You build a bunch of cannons, you go for 1 attack, but you kind of know it's not going to work. But I actually think he did a really good job. Of course, he had to run from left to right, and he was losing a few workers, but on a certain point, he actually marched across the map after taking a big fight sort of on the, in the middle left. It's hard to explain, like where the Stalkers were just fighting the middle straight up. That actually went quite okay for him. Then he decided to go for an attack, and this was a moment where a lot of units from Czech were in production, and it looked like that was a possible win for HuK. But it was really unfortunate. The Sentries and Immortals were too far separated from the rest of the pack, so it allowed Czech to jump on those units and then regroup and then fight the rest of the army. Well, I think if you have to fight everything at HuK at once, then I'm not sure if Czech would have won. And of course, someone pointed out on Twitter as well that he could have base traded, but it's really hard to start base trading after you lose your initial fight, and then the Protoss army is in the middle of 3 hatcheries. It's kind of hard for HuK to start base trading then. If you want to start base trading, you have to do it immediately and not after losing a fight. So I think HuK did a really good job in not taking too much damage. I think where it went wrong was the attack, and I think if you would resume from replay and you give him another shot and he keeps the units closer together, I think there is a way that he wins the game.
I think we're seeing less hesitation, just some of the decision-making that's happening. Not the best in that given scenario, but they're still not out of this yet. HuK's going to face Jim in the next matchup, and you guys can send us your tweets, hashtag WCS. Also, check out all the promo codes and the things that Newegg is putting up on our Twitch page down below. You'll see the different vendors, and you can get more information at esl.gg/Newegg Esports. Now, Roddy, before I let you go, PvP, HuK versus Jim. Still up in the air, 50-50?
Yeah, it's a pretty wild one. Both players like to be aggressive in PvP. Like Jim, even though he's very passive in PvT or all-in-ish, in PvP he's very solid. It's actually a matchup where he's extremely good. It's just a couple of months ago where he defeated Sun 3-0 at IEM Sunzen. That was a really big victory. Or no, actually it was a 3-2 quarterfinal, but still was amazing. Like he played very solid. But HuK also has good PvP and has defeated players like Liquid Hero in WCS America in the past. So that's also a 50-50. I know it's kind of a boring answer, but that's really how I feel about it.
That's sometimes the truth. May not be boring, but we have to say it. But the truth is as well, this is China versus Canada here at WCS America. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back after this.